This man has a night to come in, and he can give us an outside perspective as he'll be on the call tonight as NBA on NBC has returned in on Peacock, and this man is a play-by-play announcer who is ready to get into it. Michael Grady from NBA on NBC and Peacock joins us here in the locker room via the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line as the Hawks take on the New York Knicks. Michael, thank you so much for your time in the locker room this morning.
Good to be on with you guys. Appreciate you.
What do you see? What have you seen from the Atlanta Hawks that we aren't seeing? Everybody is talking about the weak schedule and the stacking up of wins against a lot of teams that are beatable. But that being said, the Hawks have been consistent in wins against Detroit and in a game against Boston as they have a chance to do so against the Knicks tonight.
My feeling is that confidence is confidence. You know, for anybody who says that, take a look at the competition and who they're beating. There are plenty of teams out there that have slip-ups against teams that they should beat. And so winning the games that you're supposed to win helps you with seeding. It helps you, obviously, build confidence. But there are just too many teams who trip up in those kind of situations. So taking care of responsibility against teams that you're supposed to beat, those little things help you. Prior to this year, I spent most of my time with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves, for whatever reason, would always rise to the occasion against the bigger competition, but they would sometimes take their eye off the ball against lesser competition. And those games add up. And then when you get down late in the season, the difference between a 6 seed and a 7 seed may be those games that you just didn't bring your A game on that you should have. So there are so many little intangibles in those kind of performances. But I applaud the Hawks for what they're doing. They are doing something that's really hard to do. They've kind of shifted personnel, and in doing so, kind of shifted styles. And I think that shift in personnel, I think, is a huge testament to the season that Jalen Johnson has been having. To allow the organization to say we're going to move on from Trae Young and we're going to put this on the shoulders of Jalen Johnson says a lot about how they felt about Jalen and his play and the way that he's embraced it all season long. So really impressed with what I'm seeing from Atlanta. Big fan of Quinn, huge fan of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who of course came over from Minnesota. So I know him well, but really love what they're doing. And I think they're a team that I don't think any Eastern Conference foe would be looking forward to playing against in the postseason.
Michael, you talk about seeding. The Hawks right now sitting in the 5 spot. They could really finish anywhere, probably from 5 to, I would gather, 8. But we're gonna assume that they go into the 5 or the 6 spot. Who do they match up better with if they get to a postseason, Cleveland or New York?
You know what? This is, and it may sound overconfident or anything like that, but I think either opponent. I think Cleveland will probably be the most vulnerable. It will be their first postseason run with James Harden, who is a tough competitor, no less. But they're a solid half-court defense. But the way Atlanta likes to get out and run and turn it into a track meet could cause some real issues for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And even though the Knicks have, they've lost the last couple of years. They've had some decent postseason runs, but they have a lot of expectations to take it to the next level this upcoming season. They're going to feel a lot of pressure. The Garden obviously is an extremely tough place to play, and Brunson is a monster in the clutch, and they obviously have a size advantage with Karl Anthony Towns when he's healthy, being there in the middle. So, but still, even then, you can put pressure on the New York Knicks. So I would give a slight. I would put Cleveland a little bit higher there, but I don't think Atlanta should be nervous about playing the Knicks. Both of those teams, Cavaliers and Knicks, would be favored. But if I'm Atlanta, I wouldn't be afraid of either squad.
Michael Grady from NBA on NBC and Peacock, play-by-play man, joining us here in the locker room via the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line.
Michael, I think I heard you say you like Quinn. I think you're referring to Quinn Snyder, and he's a guy. By the way, I have been very hard on the last couple of years just because of the way that team has played. He's supposed to be a defensive-minded guy at times, and they were one of the worst teams. And then Trae leaves, and all of a sudden, Quinn Snyder is my favorite coach in the NBA. So talk to me about that transformation and what was different then, and why is it working now?
Yeah, I think coaches don't bring the players in, and I think for a long time, Quinn being in Utah, having a defensive anchor in Rudy Gobert who covers up a lot of inefficiencies for guys around him who may not be as solid defenders, makes them look better collectively as a defense than what they may actually be, and maybe that revealed itself in the postseason. That's going back to Quinn Snyder's teams in Utah. Mm-hmm. In Atlanta, nobody ever confused Trae Young with being a great defender.
That's true.
And so to bring in a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, to see what Dyson Daniels did, a season ago and flirting with Defensive Player of the Year with the year that he had defensively, you said, okay, we have some defensive pieces here. Can Nickeil take another step offensively to offset what we would lose, what the team would lose if they dealt Trae Young? I think when a coach has his personnel and the kind of guys that fit his system, he's going to get a lot done. And it's just kind of hard to make a great dish if you don't have the right ingredients. So you just need the players. That's something that I learned a long time ago from the late Slick Leonard when he won ABA championships with the Indiana Pacers. And he didn't have as much success when he tried to coach in the NBA. And so the thing that he would preach all the time is that you need players. You need guys who fit you need stars, but you need guys who fit your system. And I think as time has gone on, Quinn has found a group that fits his style of play, the way that he wants to play. I think the tenaciousness and the tenacity with which these guys are playing with, I think he absolutely loves that. The pace that they're playing, yeah. I think he absolutely loves that. And it's been great to see the step that they take. So what we're seeing now is a better marriage between philosophy, system, and personnel.
Play-by-play voice on NBA on NBC and Peacock, Michael Grady joining us here in the locker room via the Loud Security Systems News Maker line. What would be a successful season and postseason run for the Atlanta Hawks now that they have gotten hot here over the last month?
I think everything is about collective experience. This will be the first postseason run for these guys. And I just had San Antonio and Denver the other day and was talking with Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson, and all the talk about a lack of collective postseason experience for the Spurs. And it's a real thing. And so from his standpoint and the rest of his coaching staff, they are downloading information with every big game they play the rest of the way. A win or a loss, there's going to be just a plethora of information that they're going to grab from that experience that they hope that they'll use for the next game, and then the next game, and the next game. And so people are going to head into this postseason and say, I like the Celtics because they've been to the mountaintop. They have postseason experience together. I like the Knicks, postseason experience together. The Cavaliers, this is their first run with James, but still, they between Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, they have some collective, experience. And so Atlanta, they're one of the new kids on the block. And this is with respect to Detroit, who lost in the first round. They probably should have won that series with New York, but Detroit's got awfully tough. But for Atlanta, it's really about building experience, and nobody expects them to go on a deep run. So in a sense, you're kind of playing with house money. And I think having postseason experience under your belt is so important. And to think what Jalen Johnson is going to be next season, to think what Nickeil and Dyson and other guys are going to be next season is really a scary thought as they continue to fine tune this roster to make it stronger and to make it bigger. I think it's fascinating. So I think this Atlanta squad is playing with house money. You absolutely want to secure a top 6 spot. To be able to have a week off before postseason basketball starts and not have to fool around with the play-in and have the stress of the play-in, I think is enormous. And so to go from where this team was in the standings to go on that ridiculous win streak, to elevate themselves out of the play-in, and if they're able to stay there and give a first-round opponent everything that they can handle in the first round, I think would be beyond what many would have expected before that long winning streak began.
Fantastic information. We thank you for your time, and we hope we get a chance to talk to you, have you back in the locker room again, Michael.
Look forward to it. Appreciate you.